well, yeah, there, as you could have heard just now, that the session is being recorded so that people who are unable to attend today can have a look at it. I think we can start now. I think there was some mistake with the Zoom because it showed 1.5 hours instead of 45 minutes as the session was planned for. So I hope to leave you soon, earlier, so that you can get back to your work as well. Let me share my screen and we can so that we can begin. Somebody please unmute and tell me that you can see the full screen of my slides.
Looks good.
Looks good. Okay, thank you everyone and welcome to the Innovation Management webinar. So this is purely focused on the EGI-ACE Innovation Management. So we won't go into too much detail about the other aspects of innovation management, which are probably more relevant for an organization. Before we begin, so for people who don't know me yet, I am Smitesh and I'm your host and speaker for the day. I am also the innovation manager for EGI-ACE, also wearing the same hat for EOSC Future. I'm innovation management specialist at EGI Foundation. So a lot of innovation in my titles everywhere across my work right now. I'm originally from India. So I was born, brought up in and around Mumbai. I studied there. I did my bachelor's there, then moved around for a couple of years working as a knowledge management specialist. Then I moved to Netherlands about 6 years ago to do my master's. So I have a master's in technology management with specialization in innovation management and entrepreneurship. Since then, I worked for about 4.5 years at a evil corporate company before joining this wonderful non-profit organization that I represent today, EGI Foundation. Even in my corporate life, I worked in innovation management. So I was responsible for idea management and for training employees on innovation methodology and collecting ideas and also creativity, basically. So I have a lot of experience in managing innovation systems, in idea collection campaigns, and also facilitating workshops and trainings. As for today, as I said, we will focus on innovation management in EGI-ACE. So that is task 1.4. So I want to just talk briefly about what is task 1.4 and what it covers. Then we'll go into details of exploitation management, classical innovation management, and then how you can get involved and contribute to this aspect. And also we'll take some questions at the end. So I expect that we'll have about 20 minutes of me speaking and then maybe another 20-25 minutes of some questionnaires from you. So I hope you have a lot of questions to ask for me at the end. So if we look at T1.4, which is the innovation management, so I tried to represent it in a graphical format here. So on the right, you see the PMIS, which is the Project Management Information System. So for the people who may be unaware, it's the project management system which allows for logical organization of information so that you can execute projects successfully. So it has many processes under it, as you can imagine, which are required for a successful implementation of the project. So it is only logical that there's a strong link between that and innovation management. And the next important component in the project, or probably the next big important, there are others as well. I've not represented everything here for the sake of brevity, is communication. It will slightly become clearer once I talk a bit more about the task itself. So the task can be divided into two parts. First is exploitation management, so which sort of covers capturing project results, turning them into key exploitable results, collecting information about those results, how we're going to protect it, how we are going to exploit it, identifying the best IP, intellectual property approach for those. And all of this then contributes to dissemination and exploitation, which is where communication comes into picture, because generally dissemination, which is telling people about what you have achieved through the project is generally handled through communication aspects. So, and the second is a bit more what I call as classical innovation management. So it's more about capturing and documenting opportunities or innovation concepts that EGIs can contribute to. There's also involvement of innovation management, especially in EGI-ACE, to support the work of service delivery and support group, where the innovation manager is the co-chair, and also the strategy and foresight group, where I'm just a participant in the group. So I'll go through each of these blocks one by one and take you into a bit more depth on what's happening in there and how you can contribute to it. Meanwhile, I would like to remind anybody who's joined new that you can put your questions in the Q&A part, or at the end of the session, we'll cover questions. You can raise your hand and we'll unmute you so that you can ask your questions. So feel free to include your questions. So introduction to exploitation. I talked about results and key exploitable results and exploitation, but I didn't really tell you what it means. So let's try to clarify certain concepts that are important for this discussion. So what is a project result? So project results is a very simple thing. It's anything, any kind of output that you generate during the project implementation. So as you can imagine, for a big project, that this can run into hundreds and thousands of numbers. There can be hundreds of project results, and these project results are quite diverse, and they can be both like concrete, tangible results, or it can be something like which is physical, as well as something more intangible like skills or personal experience or growth of both the project organizers and participants. Could be also policy recommendations. So if I had to try to list down the categories, I probably would need 10 slides just for that. But to sort of give you some idea of what kind of things are included in project results, we have know-how, knowledge and experience, algorithms, prototypes, new products or services, new business models, policy recommendations, roadmaps, learnings, reports and guidelines, trained researchers, new or updated infrastructures, publications, data or databases, events, websites. So all of these are examples of project results. Now, as you can imagine, not all project results can be exploited. And what do we mean by exploitation? Exploitation means that you use it and benefit from something with it. If I look at the EC definition, it talks about use of the results in commercial activities um, or in policy recommendation. I didn't use that definition because commercial sometimes ring alarm bells in everybody's mind. So I try to simplify it a bit, but it's all about trying to maximize the potential of whatever is being funded, so that it is relevant and is used beyond the lifetime of the project. So we're not talking about the 3 years that EGI-ACE is operational, but we're talking about after, what happens after EGI. So whatever you have developed, like for example, the EOS compute platform or the different services we are delivering through EGI, what happens to them after that? So it's important for EC that something useful comes out of any project that they fund, because it's not a sinkhole that they put in money, you do something for 3 years and then it's gone. So they want it to have a longer lifetime. So as you can imagine, not all projects can be exploited in this sense. So it's, for example, a website, it can be communicated to everybody, this is the website and here you can find information, but there's not really any sort of policy recommendation or for example, commercial activity that you can do through websites. So there are only certain kinds of project results, especially if you talk like in case of EGIS, we can talk about the services or any kind of interoperability guidelines that we are developing, which have more potential for exploitation. And these are what we generally call as the key exploitable results which are important from the point of view of exploitation are termed as the key exploitable results, also termed as KERs. Another point that I touched upon was intellectual property management. So it's important because from an exploitation point of view, it's important to know, well, who owns the result, and can you just, how can other people access it, or can they even access it in the first place? Because in certain cases, you might think of protecting the result. So if you have specifically, if you have some commercial interest around it, it is important that you protect the results in form of maybe protect patents or trademarks or copyrights. Often enough, especially in EGIs, everything is kind of open source. So there's also that. But this is all covered under intellectual property management. So it sort of encompasses what do we do for protecting and managing the intellectual property assets. Assets in this case are all the project results that we're talking about. So you can have patents, copyrights, neighboring rights, trademarks, design rights, database rights, trade name laws, plant breeder rights, semiconductor topography rights, or as I said, we can also have open source where it's all open to everybody and they can access it. So what do we do with all this, right? So what are we doing exactly in EGI-ACE to manage this exploitation process? I want to take you step by step. So first step is obviously, well, what are the project results being generated? So we this already happened during the project proposal phase. So we already knew, because everything is sort of written down in the description of action. So there is already the list of project results that are important and relevant being generated through EGIs, which then moves into, okay, well, if these are the project results, what are the key exploitable results, right? So we identify key exploitable results from these project results. Now, as you can imagine, these key exploitable results touch upon different aspects. And as innovation manager, I may not always have the best information about those results, right? So I need support in terms of gathering information or knowing more about results. So for that, we have something called as the KER champion. So these are individuals which have now appointed in EGI-ACE, who either know the information relevant to that result, or know, or are probably best placed to know who might know that information. So it's not their responsibility to know everything, but they are sort of my first point of contact. Hey, do you know anything about it? So if they know about it, then they can tell me. If they're not, then okay, they might say, oh, he might know, or she might know, or they might know about this information. So then I can reach out to them. So once we have these curve champions, obviously the next logical step is to gather some information about those KERs. So what is the intellectual property? What is exactly being generated in the result? How is it relevant? How can it help in policy recommendations? What kind of contribution can it make? And so on. So we are right now in this phase of gathering this information for the key exploitable results. And beyond that, obviously, we have exploitation, which is the actual, okay, how do we make sure that these results are then used and made available to everybody. And then there is this Horizon Results platform, which is an initiative by European Commission, where you can upload your project results and showcase it to other people so that they can learn more about it, or maybe they have some resources they can contribute to it if they find them important and relevant. As you can imagine, this is not a single process. So this right now we are gathering the information, we will define some exploitation plan, we'll put the results in Horizon Results platform. But as the project goes through its cycle, we will have to periodically review this information and re-update whatever we have written down for those results and make sure it's up to date and relevant to the discussion. So if you want to learn more about what's being collected, as I said, it's still in the early stages, so it's not fully there. But if you are interested, right now we have, I'll talk about them in the next slide, but for 2 of the KERs, some information has been collected. For the other 3, we'll be collecting more information in the coming weeks. But if you want to learn more about it, I'm sure you know about the Confluence page of EGI-ACE. So if you go to confluence.egi.eu/display/EGI-ACE, you can find a tab on your right called Project Results. And inside that, you have catalog of project results. and catalog of key exploitable results. And within those key exploitable results, then you will find the 5 key exploitable results that we have and related information for them. So in case you're unaware, what are the key exploitable results? So EGI-ACE, as I mentioned, has 5 key exploitable results defined. So first one is free at point of use services, IT resources, data and analytics. So this covers a bunch of services and resources that we are providing through EGI-ACE. So it's a amalgamation of multiple project results. Actually, all of these are amalgamation of multiple project results. So KER1 has a bunch of those. KER2 talks about trainings that we provide, for example, the webinars, even this webinars, handbooks that we are creating about high performance computing, and so on, and also consultancy that you provide for the service providers like the Shepherds that we have in EGI. So all those results are grouped into the key exploitable result number 2. Then we have the service management system and the tools integrated with the portal, which talks about the SMS system. We also have the interoperability toolkit, which talks about interoperability between the services and also of the services with EOSC platform. So how can this be achieved? So it's a set of instructions and guidelines that anybody can then adopt to make their service or platform interoperable with EOSC or any of the other services as mentioned in EGI-ACE. And finally, we through this entire project, obviously, we'll have a lot of lessons learned. We'll have strategy defined. We'll have recommendations in terms of policy for EC or for other communities. All these are grouped into the key exploitable result number 5. These are the 5 exploitable results. We're collecting information about them now. So first version of information should be ready by end of November to go into Horizon Results platform, and then so on. But if you have more questions, don't forget to put them in the Q&A section or ask them at the end. So this concludes the first part of the task, which is the exploitation management. Now, talking about, well, let's a bit more delving into the classical innovation management part, which is about, to remind you, is about the capturing and documenting of opportunities and innovation concepts. Well, to sort of begin with it, it's always an important discussion. Well, what is innovation? And it's sort of difficult to define because innovation means different things to different people. And if you probably search online about innovation or what is the definition, you'll probably find hundreds and thousands of definitions, which look at innovation from different perspectives and different points. So I try to put together something which might probably make sense for the project itself, but I do not want you to restrict yourself to this definition of innovation. I want you to understand what you feel is innovation, and that is the definition of innovation. So in this case, as I think for EGI-ACE, it's an idea or could be any practice or an object that is new, that is perceived as new. That's important because something may be new, something may be old in a different field or a different context, but if when we adopt it for EGI-ACE, because it's never been done in this context, it's new. So it's perceived as new because it's never been done in this context. So even if it's something, you have a technology or some concept which is hundreds of years old, it can be still considered as innovation because it's never been done in this context. So if it is perceived as new by individual or other unit of adoption, in this case, the EGI-ACE project, it is innovation. So we do not restrict yourself to think, oh, augmented reality or whatever virtual reality has been there for years, but we are not using it in EGI-ACE. So if we do bring it in EGI-ACE, well, it's innovation. So have a broader sense of what innovation could be. So well, if you have a definition for innovation, then as you can imagine, innovation management is the systematic promotion of innovations in organizations or projects through a proper planning, organization, management, and control. So as you can imagine, it's a very broad term. It can include a lot of things like identification of trends and future opportunities, where contribution to the strategic and foresight group makes sense. It could have development of innovation strategy, where the defining what is innovation and defining what is innovation management, it fits in. You can have planning of innovation activities. So when I'm doing this webinar, or I'm doing some kind of brainstorming session in PMB or in SDS, then those are innovation activities included under innovation management. Then there is obviously the common aspect of idea management. So if you have an idea or an opportunity, let's try to call it opportunities, because that's how we define that, managing the entire process of it. Okay, well, here is the opportunity. What do we do with it? How can we exploit it? Coming up with suggestions for it, making sure those suggestions are implemented. This entire process also falls under innovation management. So it's a very broad term, and a lot of things can be done under innovation management. So keep an open view towards that. So as I said, in the description of action, we talk about opportunities, but what does opportunity mean in this context? So opportunity is you can think of anything which can generate value, and value for whom? Value for you, who are an EGI-ACE participant, or for the EGI-ACE project in general. So it can be anything which a set of circumstances that have presented themselves, or a chance which can be used by us to make sure we increase the impact of the project, or we make the life of participants in the project better. So make it easier for them to do their work. So yeah, I've given some examples. Obviously, this is not an exhaustive list, but it could be capturing demands for new services or new features in existing service. So it can be some form of a service innovation, or it can be, well, how do we deliver services in alternative ways? Could be delivery innovation. We're also talking about now, okay, how do we increase the uptake of services? So that could be like a marketing innovation sort of thing. There's other aspect of how do we run the project better? Is there something which is of issue for everybody, that which can we solve, so make the activities more smoother, more better? Then we can have some form of project innovation. And what, well, the other aspect of that is, what is a concept? So a concept is something which is so you have an opportunity, and this will become more clearer when I show you the entire process. But if you have an opportunity, you need to exploit it. And how do you exploit it? Is through a concept. So a concept is a well thought out and well defined way to exploit any opportunity that you come up with. So if I go through the process, well, obviously the first step is opportunity identification. And this is where your main role comes in, because I cannot be in every meeting, I cannot be in every discussion related to EGI-ACE. So you are my eyes and ears in all those meetings. So if you see something, hear something, not just in the project meetings, but outside the project context, you see something new, or you see oh, this could be interesting, or you even don't know what to do with it, tell us about it. Tell us what is that opportunity that you have seen. I'll tell you how to tell me about it. But this is where all of you come into picture. And then going ahead, it's up to you how much you want to be involved in this process. But well, once we have identified the opportunity, then we want to generate some ways of, okay, how do we make sure we capture that opportunity and exploit this opportunity? So that's the concept generation. So that's generally involves innovation manager. Again, I'm not an expert in every aspect, so I might need some support, which is in this case an opportunity owner. So if it's related to some kind of communication activities, it would be a communication manager of EGI-ACE. So they'll be together with them. I'll run some brainstorming sessions. We'll gather some ideas. We'll make them into, okay, this is what we can do. This is how we can achieve this opportunity identification. Then those results will be obviously presented to the SDS, because that's the main approving body in this case. And they will then SDS can choose, oh, this is the best way to make sure we identify and capture this opportunity. This is the concept that you should implement. Then obviously next steps is implementing that opportunity. Here the roles are slightly flipped. So opportunity owner would be in the lead position, because they are probably best placed to implement that. So if it's some kind of a communication activity, it's not more than likely, but it's more correct for the communication manager to implement it as part of their project activities. than me going and nosing around in their work. So they'll lead the actual implementation, and I'll be in the back seat, helping them, supporting them, and making sure that it does get exploited. So this diagram I've sort of simplified a bit. So if you want to read a bit more in detail on, okay, what happens in each step and how the approval process is and all that, so you can read D1.1. It's about it has quality and risk. So that's also relevant for you to read that part. And the innovation management plan, which is about 2 or 3 pages. It's not a lot. So I do recommend that you go back and read those information. And to enable this capturing and management of opportunity, we have a Jira project setup. So you as EGI-ACE participants can come in and submit any kind of opportunity that you identify, come across into this Jira project. So you have access to it. You should be able to submit anything. So if you don't have it, shoot an email to me and then I'll help you out. So as I said, call for action. I really encourage you and plead you at this point to come and submit opportunities. It's really easy. So there's only three fields that you actually have to fill up. So the link is there. Use the create button. I think everybody knows how to use Jira. But you just need to provide some sort of summary, which is a title for the opportunity, some sort of description. So tell us a bit more. Okay, what is the opportunity? Where did you identify it? And so on. So we have a bit more context. You can select, okay, what does this contribute to? Maybe it contributes to capacity improvement or new business model or community growth or something like that. So you can select multiple of those components. So these are the three fields you really have to submit. Yeah. So with just maybe it takes maybe like a couple of minutes to write all this down and submit an opportunity. So it's really easy. It's a really low barrier for you to participate in this activity. In some cases, it might be a time-sensitive opportunity. For example, it could be about some kind of an event. Then that event has a certain date where the event will happen. So we need to make sure that we capture and we exploit this opportunity before that event finishes. So in those cases, please do provide if there is a specific deadline that is important. It's not mandatory for everything, but in case it's time sensitive, do provide it so we know how to prioritize the opportunities that we do receive. To give you a snapshot, I have 3 opportunities which have been captured in the Jira project in the last few days since we launched it. So I really want you to go think about it and keep thinking about it. And whenever you come across something and you probably don't know what to do with it or something, then put it there and we can have a discussion about it. Other parts, in case you've been identified as a key exploitable result champion, or if in general, in case the champion doesn't have information and I reach out to you, support with the gathering of information of results and exploitation. As I said, I am not an expert in all the results. You are the ones who are actually doing, in your case, doing the actual work on those results. So you are better placed to know more information about them than I am. So do support with that activities. I promise it won't take a lot of your time, maybe a couple of hours during the course of the entire project. So it's not a lot of significant effort. So to help with that. And finally, if you want to run some kind of brainstorming sessions or ideation sessions, innovation management of EGI-ACE is more than happy to help you with facilitation of those sessions and working with you in general. And if you want to think with me about some kind of session you want to run or some kind of workshop you want to run, I have a lot of experience in facilitation, so I can help you with trying to make it more fun or more interactive. We can think together, come up with some interesting new ideas. So reach out to me, send me an email, ping me on Slack, find me on LinkedIn, however, whatever is your poison in this case, shoot an email and tell us about it. Okay, that's it from me. Are there any questions already? I'm going to stop sharing my screen to see. Are there any questions? Please ask questions. I'm sure there are many in your mind at this point. Anybody? Oh, Sai has a question. Sai, go ahead.
So you mentioned in your, let's say, intro, in your previous experience, having run different types of workshops. And I know that there's many different ones that you can probably choose from, almost like your toolbox of different types of facilitation workshops. Do you have an idea already what could be something interesting to run via EGI-ACE for, let's say, the specific project community? That would maybe be, let's say, a first initial workshop, maybe planned for 2022 even?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, the obvious ones are brainstorming and ideation workshops. I think everybody needs that in their activities in the project. We just ran one in PMB, which went down pretty well. It was last week, couple of weeks ago on 26th. So it went down pretty well. That's the most obvious one, which I think everybody can relate to. I've been discussing about doing the create your own infrastructure kind of workshop, maybe in some form of a Lego serious play. It's a Lego serious play is the technique where you use Legos uh, to communicate and build a workshop. So it's a very hands-on, interesting way of doing things. So then that could be one way. I have some experience in doing co-creation, co-design workshops with users. So that definitely could be interesting. And I think I've been already talking to Giuseppe about it, supporting the boot camp eventually that may happen next year with in collaboration with EOSC Future. So there's that. So those are definitely some examples of workshops or types of workshop that I can at this moment support. But if you can think of any workshop, even though I may not have done the workshop, because facilitation is sort of a skill in itself. I mean, I may have some ideas of making it more interactive or making it more fun, or maybe there's something I've tried which could be helped in that context. So there could be also a discussion for that. So does that answer your question, Sai?
Yeah, that was perfect, and I think it also is probably useful for others if they've never actually experienced, because sometimes meetings in this context can be very presentation heavy and very discussion oriented. So I think it was a nice indication to give people kind of like an idea of what do we mean by facilitation workshops and hands-on stuff. So that was good. Thanks for that.
Yeah. Just when you were talking, it came to my mind another thing which we could also try is some kind of a hackathon or something like that. I have some experience with even that, so there is we can also try that. Anybody else with any questions? I have not checked the Q&A part. I don't see any. I'm sure there are many in your head. Please raise your hand in case you have any questions. If you are still alive after my presentation. No? Okay. I'm gonna give a couple of more minutes for people to think if they have, but I'll just like to reiterate the call for action. Please do think of submitting opportunities and come on, work. Do think of submitting your not do think please do submit opportunities in the Jira project. It's important because I think all of us want the project to succeed and have the most impact possible. So do go ahead and submit it. As I said, it's quite easy. It just requires maybe like a couple of minutes once you know what opportunity you may have thought of. It doesn't have to be fully defined. It doesn't have to be well thought out. Okay, he needs all this information. I need to put it out in the best possible English format so he understands. He doesn't need all that. Just put it down. Initial thoughts is fine, and we can have a discussion from there. So don't let that be a barrier for you. Just go in and bookmark this link and submit some opportunities. A final call for questions. Okay, well, then I do not want to hold you for longer than required. Thank you again for attending the session and joining and participating in it. I hope to see a lot of opportunities from you in the coming days and coming months for EGI-ACE. And as always, if you have any questions or suggestions or feedback about the webinar, shoot me an email and we can talk about it. Yeah, well, thank you everyone and have a nice day ahead of you.